Insulating your shed to house the wrong way can be extremely damaging to your structure, and it can be extremely dangerous to your health. Let me explain. This is a topic I've been doing a lot of research on, so hopefully this video is going to help you out by taking a lot of the hard work out of figuring out which type of insulation to put into your shed to house conversion. The big thing that keeps coming up over and over and over again is the need to protect from moisture. If we insulate our shed to house conversion the wrong way, what can happen is moisture can develop, which ultimately can lead to the destruction of the materials you use. And then the second part of the moisture developing can be that mold can develop. And we've all heard horror stories of mold problems in homes and what that can do to damaging people's health. It is imperative that you study your shed, understand how it ventilates, to understand what type of insulation that you need. There are three main types of insulations that you can use. The first type of insulation that's very, very common is the spray foam. Now there's closed cell and there's open cell, and I'll discuss a little bit more about that later. The second type is very common in different regions, and that is fiberglass insulation. It's kind of the pink insulation bats that you can see at your typical Lowe's or Home Depot. I'm here in Texas, and that is a very common type of insulation when it comes to insulating structures. And then the third type is, I believe it's called rock wool. I'm not really familiar with it down kind of in the southern regions where I'm at. But I think it is more of kind of like an organic material that is very, very fire resistant. And so there is a time to use that. And in this video, I'm going to explain when to use each type of insulation. First, let's talk about spray foam. Spray foam insulation is what I'm going to use specifically on my ceiling. So I'm going to use spray foam on my ceiling, and then I'm going to use fiberglass batting on my walls. I'm probably going to use the standard R15. You can go down, from my understanding, down to like an R13. But in Texas where I'm at, the region where I'm at, is you want a minimum of an R15. And then on the ceiling, you're going to want closed cell, and I'm going to explain why in just a moment. Closed cell spray foam insulation, and you want at a minimum a 2-inch layer or 2-inch thickness on the ceiling. But the reason that I want closed cell and not open cell is because the closed cell actually provides like a vapor barrier. Some people say that given the way that my ceiling is, the way that my roof is, I have a metal roof here. And then underneath the metal roof, you can see that there is a wood sheathing under it. Some say that this wood sheathing will be okay to put some fiberglass or even rock wool insulation up there. I'm not going to chance it. The majority of people say you want to put closed cell insulation in a ceiling like this. And the reason that they say you want to put a closed cell insulation in here is because there's no type of ventilation. I don't have a soffit ventilation, and I don't have a ridge ventilation. It actually kind of looks like I do the way that this is built, but that is actually sealed up. What are the pros and the cons of spray foam? Really, one of the pros is just superior insulation. It is a great insulator. There's also the longevity of the spray foam. It lasts a long, long time. And then, as I mentioned before, that it actually creates a vapor barrier. So it kind of puts a water tightness on your structure wherever you put it. What are the cons of it? Really, the big con of spray foam is that it's more expensive than the other ones. So if you're kind of trying to be cost effective, you're trying to save cost in certain areas, this would be one of the areas that would be more expensive in your project. Another maybe con for the spray foam insulation is it is challenging to put in. It's not just go buy it and do it. There is a little learning curve to it if you're wanting to do DIY, or if you hire it out, that's where the expense can get a little bit higher as well. Now let's talk about the second option, which is the fiberglass insulation. One of the essentials that you must know whenever it comes to putting in the fiberglass insulation and even the rock wool insulation is you must have proper ventilation. To have proper ventilation, you need to have a soffit vent, you need to have a ridge vent, and then there's like vent batting that you can get, and you can get it from Lowe's or Home Depot. It typically comes in 4-foot sections, and it's a little wavy so that airflow can go from the soffit up to the ridge vent. You must have that if you're going to put fiberglass insulation or rock wool insulation in your ceiling, because if you don't, that's where moisture builds up. So what are the pros and cons of fiberglass insulation? Really, again, as I mentioned before, the number one pro is it's cost effective. It's not as much as the spray foam. And really the second pro is it's very easy to install. I mean, you can install it with a utility knife and a staple gun. The con of it is, really the big one is it's less moisture resistant. You're more prone to develop moisture problems with it, specifically when it comes to ceilings. And that leads us to our third type of insulation, which is rock wool. But here's what I need to say about the rock wool insulation. It's a good product. It's a little bit heavier than fiberglass insulation and a little bit more expensive, but it is a little more resistant to moisture, and it's a lot more resistant to fire than fiberglass and really even your spray foam insulation. Another imperative, important part about rock wool insulation is proper ventilation. You need the same exact ventilation as you do for fiberglass. Some of the pros and cons of rock wool insulation is, again, as I mentioned, fire resistant. It is more moisture resistant than, say, fiberglass, but not as much as the spray foam. And it is a great soundproofing barrier. So maybe you have a wall in your structure, or you're needing to soundproof it. Maybe you're next to a busy road. Man, putting rock wool all in your structure will actually help deaden the sound coming from the outside. And the two cons to it is slightly more expensive than fiberglass insulation, and it's quite a bit heavier. And so just keep those in mind if you do go the rock wool route. That those are two things that you want to be mindful of. Again, the main things to keep in mind is ventilation, ventilation, ventilation. And if you don't have the ventilation, the best route to go is closed cell spray foam, specifically on the ceilings. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If it has, please subscribe, like, comment. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to see some pictures or some videos on your shed to house. Man, that may inspire us to do another video. Again, thanks for watching.